Hello friends and welcome back. This week's video is going to be a little bit different than the content I normally put out. Last week for our 5-year anniversary, me and RJ went camping at Jay Cooke State Park, and I took some videos while I was there, so I wanted this week's video to be sharing the adventures that we had last week. So it's our camping and our hiking adventures, and I hope that you enjoy it. Here is our campsite with the dogs tied up and our big old tent. We have this really nice zip line set up for Inari so that she can run back and forth. Here's inside our tent. It is technically, I think, a 10 to 12 person tent, but it's also really nice for 2 people or even up to 4 just to have space. Also, most of this video is going to be my dogs, so I hope you're ready to see the dogs. Here is the rest of our campsite. We have these nice little citronella candles which help repel bugs. We brought some wine with as well, and we were real fancy with wine in our plastic cups. Our first dinner was super fancy. It was hot dogs roasted over the fire, but it was delicious and it's easy to pack. Of course, the dogs very much wanted some as well. They did eventually get to share a hot dog with each other, so the dogs were not left out in the enjoyment of hot dogs. We also have these light up collars and leashes for the dogs that we got for walking them at night or for when we're outside at night or also camping. And so we put the leashes on the sides of our tent as little lights to have on our tent, and then it also makes it easy to see the dogs at night. The next morning we had bagels roasted over the open fire. This is the first time I've ever done this. I had no idea if it would work. I was really worried my bagels would fall off, but to my surprise, it worked quite well. So if you like camping and you like bagels, this works quite well for toasting your bagels in the morning. And anyone that knows me, has seen me on stream, you know I love bagels. Bagels are my favorite. Jack was really obsessed with trying to tear down this little tree sapling. I do not know why, but enjoy this video of him trying to tear it out of the ground. Sometimes Jack is just special. And then it was time to head to Jay Cooke State Park for some hiking. There are literally tons of hiking trails all along this road going to Jay Cooke State Park. So here's just some video of us making our adventure on our way to the park. Now, I've taken Jack hiking many times. I know he listens well, and I always make sure to keep a leash on me for him, but usually when we go hiking, Jack gets to be off leash. If we're around people, he does go back on leash, but there's pretty much nobody on this trail, so we let Jack have free rein so he can run around. Inari has gone on walks and shorter hikes. We brought a bigger backpack to carry her in case she got too tired, because usually she gets tired pretty fast. We actually ended up not having to use Inari's backpack at all. She finished the entire about 4-mile hike all by herself, so we were really proud of her for how well she did. You can see the backpack on RJ's back here. Jack also has his own backpack. He is carrying water for both him and Inari. It also slows him down a little bit because he's crazy. I took a lot of videos of the different trails and what we saw while we were hiking, so I won't have a lot to say about the next few videos, but I hope you just enjoy watching them and seeing the enjoyment on the dogs' faces and enjoying the views with us. The big sight to see at Jay Cooke State Park is the swinging bridge. It was very narrow. Jack had no problem with it. Inari was not a huge fan, but here is the swinging bridge, and the views on it are amazing. And yes, it does swing back and forth if there's enough people on it and there's enough wind to make it sway. It does move. All the rapids and rock formations were really pretty. They were really cool to see. The hiking trails that were near the falls and the rapids were a lot less flat, which makes sense. So they were a little bit more difficult to navigate, a little bit narrower. There was some climbing that was involved in a few spots, and we were fine, and we were happy that Inari kind of made it through as well, because we're not worried about Jack. Jack is very capable of climbing and hiking. He's also a fan of being in the water, however he is not a fan of swimming. He will only go as deep as he can touch, which as you can see is not very deep, but he is still happy to jump in the water real quick. And we made sure not to let him in where the rapids were too fast or where it might be dangerous for him to run in. There is a little pool of water here that was pretty calm. Here's where some of the trails start to get a little bit more narrow, but Jack is very good at leading the way to make sure that we know exactly where we should be going. After hiking for a while, we decided to make our way back, and we started to head back to the swinging bridge and then go back to the first trail that we had been on. So here is some views from Swinging Bridge again. Inari had done a really good job crossing the bridge the first time. It was a little bit earlier in the morning and there wasn't so many people and so much going on. However, on the way back there was a few more people and the bridge was moving a lot more and she was not having the greatest time. But she did eventually make it across. RJ had to pick her up and carry her for a little bit. But then now you can see her making her way back across the bridge and me and Jack waiting for her. She did make it across. We were so proud of her. Here we are back on that first main trail we were on. This trail was super nice. It was very green, it was very soft, it was very easy to walk on, and it was very quiet. It was definitely just right in the middle of the woods. There was also this little shelter. We think this was here for hikers in case they get caught in the rain, or even some workers, because there were some people doing some forestry work while we were walking along this trail. So we're just assuming this is just a little shelter for when there's inclement weather. But truly, this trail was just in the middle of the forest, and it was so green, and it was so peaceful, and it was awesome. I really loved this part of the trail. I think we had figured out that this trail actually used to be an old logging trail, and that's why many people probably don't use it as often as anymore, and it's also not really close to Swinging Bridge, which is what people come to see when they come to Jay Cooke State Park. So it also opened up into this big field where you could see the dam, and there's lots of wildflowers. There's also a little creek right here that Jack discovered, so of course he had to go jump in. You can tell that Jack is starting to get tired now that we've hiked. This is probably close to 3.5, getting close to the end of the 4 miles. He's pretty good at hiking, but he's been running around this whole time. He probably ran like 10 miles on this day. So you could tell that he's getting tired because he's starting to slow down. He's not running as far ahead anymore, but he's still being a very good boy, and he's still having a blast. Jack loves to go hiking and being outside. He is an Australian cattle dog. This is what he loves to do. Here's some views from up on top of the ridge from earlier in the hike as well, so you can really see the river and how the water flows, and it's quite large and quite vast. Then our hiking was done and it was time to head back to our campsite. The doggos were very tired. We were also pretty tired, but we had a very good time hiking. You can see here's Jack happily sitting on my lap as we take in all the views of driving back to our campsite. For lunch, we had bagels sandwiches, so we still had some macaroni salad and potato salad, and then we had some meat and cheese as well. And then we were all very tired, so we decided to lay down and take a nap, and the dogs were happy to join us as well. After our nap, we had planned to go kayaking, but we couldn't figure out how to do the kayak rental through our site. I think they might have all just been rented out, and that's why we couldn't see where any kayaks were. So I think there just were no kayaks left to be rented. So we just hung out and enjoyed being outside. Here's a video of Jack just sitting on my lap and just listening to all the sounds around us. I just liked watching his ears twitch as he listened to things. And then we had some more hot dogs for dinner. That's pretty much all we packed was bagels and hot dogs. But tonight we had a bit of a more fancy hot dog. We added some cheese to our hot dogs this time to make it a little bit different than the first night. And of course, it would not be camping without s'mores. So we made sure to make some s'mores. We had chocolate and graham crackers. These were very easy to make. If you've never had s'mores, I highly suggest making them. They are delicious and they are a camping must-have. They're very messy, but very worth it. Very delicious. No, it's not healthy, but we don't care. It just tastes good. I've taken Jack camping with me many times. He's always been a very good little camping dog, and at the end of the day, after we've done our activities all day long, his favorite thing to do is just sit on my lap and chill. He will 100% fall asleep on my lap this way. That's all he likes to do at the end of the day, is just sit on me. He's just a big baby. I have looked into getting some outdoor dog beds so the dogs don't have to lay on the ground or in the dirt, but as you can see, Jack prefers to lay on me anyway, but I would still like to get something for Inari to lay on. As you can see, the dogs were very tired after hiking all day. As soon as we got the tent, they both immediately crawled in and laid down. Inari did not want to move out of the spot she chose. Unfortunately, she did have to be moved since that is where I had to lay down, but she fell asleep very quickly after she was moved. We had kept a close eye on the weather that night as it was supposed to rain, but it was supposed to just be a drizzle. However, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of thunder and lightning, and then at 5 a.m. we had to pack up our tent, all wet, and blankets were wet, the tent was wet. So we had water build up on our tent. No water came up from underneath the tent, but this tent is very old, it's probably 30 years old, and the water was dripping through the top. So we had to reset up our tent back at home, but we had to pack everything up all wet and soaking and muddy at like 5 a.m. So that was a great way to wake up very early in the morning. But that means that we got to make a very early morning McDonald's stop. And so to treat the dogs, of course, we got them a pup cup and they shared it, and both of them were very sleepy, but very happy to have the pup cup. Inari is so very dainty whenever she eats anything. She is just so cute and sweet and small. And then Jack is the complete opposite. Jack gets anything and he's absolutely feral. He will shove his entire face into the cup, he will shove his nose against the side, he will chew on the cup, he will get it everywhere. He does not care. We also got to treat ourselves to a nice early morning McDonald's breakfast. I absolutely love McGriddles. They're my favorite, I crave them all the time. So that was a nice end to the morning, despite the fact that we had to wake up early and then it was wet and rainy and gross. Having a McGriddle was just such a nice thing to have as the end of the camping trip. Plus, since it was so early in the morning, there was like no line at McDonald's. And we had a great ending to a really fun weekend and a really fun camping trip. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and keep up with me on all of my social media channels. I'm the Anime Athlete on every social media channel. Be sure to check out my Patreon for exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and catch me live on Twitch to hang out with me. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good rest of your night.